Hello, everyone. Today I want to talk about an extremely important attitude on the spiritual path, and that is simply to keep a sense of humor. I remember when Swami was in his late 80s, involved in an extremely difficult work building Ananda India. He started it when he was 78, I think, late 70s. And his body gave him a lot of trouble. And he was saying to me that he had lost his sense of taste, he couldn't hear, his eyesight was failing. The senses were just dropping off one by one. And we started joking about, well, you may lose your senses, but you haven't lost your sense of humor. It's very important. It keeps everything joyful. Swami, one time, many years ago, when he was part of SRF, he was invited to do a lecture in a distant town, and the lady who was organizing it was not much of an organizer, and Swami feared that there wouldn't be a big turnout after all the expense of traveling there and so on. But he did his best, and he tried to encourage her to put an ad in the newspaper and something on the radio and so on. But when he found out what she had posted in the newspaper, she had said, SRF members only, special meeting. And they already knew how many SRF members there were. There were 3. So Swami had been hoping to gather a few more people than that. Well, the night of the lecture came, and as suspected, there was the lady who was organizing it and several of her relatives that she had coerced into attending. And there was one new person that neither of them knew. And so Swami bravely did the lecture and tried to be as magnetic as he could and try to speak to this man and try to really draw the grace that would get these people interested. And afterwards, as he was shaking the man's hand and everything, and meeting this new person, Swami said, well, I think there weren't very many people tonight because Gaylord Hauser, the famous nutritionist and health food person, was giving a lecture the same evening. And this new person, the one new person who had come to the lecture, said, oh, you mean that was tonight? Oh, I missed it. So Swami, in recounting this story, would laugh heartily at his own expense, knowing that he had tried his best and yet people were just not interested and didn't know about what he had to offer. So we have to take that view of ourselves, more of an observer to the divine comedy, tragedy, drama of this life, rather than take everything so personally. We have to start to take ourselves more impersonally. There's a beautiful story of Saint Bernadette. And when she went into the convent, she would go out every morning with the other nuns to exercise by walking around the little courtyard, reading a prayer book. And she was limping as she did this every day. And no one really questioned her or thought about it. But there was one older nun who just hated Bernadette, all the sweetness that she had, all the experiences of Mary that she had, all the acclaim and publicity. And this older woman was very jealous of that, and she had lost her vocation long ago because she felt that she had given her life to God and she hadn't felt anything back in return. And so she hated Bernadette, and one day she accosted her and said very angrily to Bernadette, "You're just making this up. You don't need to limp like that. You're just trying to get attention." And Bernadette said, "Oh, I'm so sorry." She was humble. She just said, "I'm sorry you feel this way. You're right. I don't really suffer." And this older nun just continued to berate her, and finally Bernadette said, "Well, maybe this will help you. I have some things going on in my life. It's not all just blissful." And paraphrasing, of course. And she lifted the hem of her habit to show her the lower part of her leg, and she had a huge festering cancer on her leg. And she had never complained about it. She had never told anyone about it, but it did cause her to limp a little bit. Well, when that older woman saw for herself what Bernadette was dealing with, she became her servant and often would carry her wherever she needed to go. But that loss of self, loss of ego, it doesn't mean that we don't enjoy life. We enjoy it more because we can step back a little bit from the drama and we can observe and see the bigger picture, see the vastness of the play. And after a while, we can get the perspective of how everything works out for the best. Everything is designed by God to help us to grow and change. There's a very important lesson that we can take from Bernadette, from Swami Kriyananda, from many, many great saints. Just not taking ourselves too seriously. We don't need to be raucous and loud and laugh like a hyena to express our good humor. We need to be centered. At the same time, it isn't as though dignity requires that we never have a sense of humor. That's not true dignity. True dignity is being centered in the self, no matter what is going on, no matter what happens. But always to keep that inner cheerfulness, that inner good humor. That way, when things don't go the way we want them to, we can keep a sense of perspective. We can look to the future. We can learn from what didn't work and do better the next time. Never dwelling on the past and past mistakes, but looking to future joy, future fulfillment, and most of all, giving everything to God, letting Him be the one to worry about how everything will turn out. Anandamoy Ma once was asked, "What do you think of all the global unrest and all the environmental problems that we have and all the things that are afflicting humanity and the world? What will happen with the world?" And Anandamoy Ma thought for a moment, and then she simply said, "He who made the world, don't you think he knows how to take care of it?" Keep surrendering to God's will, because God truly has the bigger picture. He has the infinite drama all figured out. He has it all planned for every creature's greatest joy and fulfillment. So rest in that surrender. Do your part. Never give up. Never surrender your energy, your enthusiasm, your joy. Keep putting out energy, but at the same time, refer back to God and know that it's His energy moving through you. Trust in Him and keep your sense of humor.